All right, we are live, and welcome to the Crazy Creative Podcast. This is episode 23. This is Steve Raboin, and I have Louis Krubich and Jason Aron. They are the creative force behind the documentary Back in Time, which takes a look at the awesome trilogy Back to the Future. So, gentlemen, thanks for being on the show. This is actually really cool to have you on. It's always interesting to get people on that I don't directly know. And kind of have to do a bunch of research to figure out, what you guys do and what you're all about. But thank you very much for taking the time to be on the show. And I guess you guys probably want to talk a little bit about Back in Time. So I guess, would somebody like to take a crack at what the documentary really is about?
Yeah, definitely. It's very, very difficult to explain. It's very convoluted. So I'll try my best, and then Jay, you can simplify it for me if it's a little difficult. No, I'm just kidding. This doc is for anyone and everyone. It's about the cultural relevance of the Back to the Future trilogy. There's some great personal, social, human interest stories in the doc. We have a lot of celebrities from the film, a lot of talent that was involved in the production of it. And this is something that Jay it's kind of his baby. As you can see, he sleeps with and cuddles with the hoverboard that he's holding in his video right now. He never takes off that hat. But he kind of got this idea after doing a bar mitzvah video. Came to us to produce with him. Jay and I kind of produce a lot of the content that we do together. And so I'll kind of let him take it from there as to why he thought this would be great, and kind of give more specifics on what any fan can expect in the film.
Yeah, it's a movie I always loved. I involved Back to the Future as a kid, I guess, like everyone else who's sort of in our generational age range, or even who doesn't love Back to the Future worldwide? And it's something I always loved. And then what happened was I was doing this bar mitzvah film, like Louis said, and we had rented a DeLorean as a set prop, and the day that we were shooting, just tons of people, cars, and taking pictures of it. It was kind of amazing to behold. And that day I said, I should make a documentary about Back to the Future. It's kind of weird how much everybody loves it. That was sort of the initial spark. From there, the idea, we mapped out sort of a plan of action that would be both financially feasible and interesting. And we went up to Hubbardston, Massachusetts, which is about 100 miles west of the middle of nowhere, and we filmed this Kickstarter video. This is back in April of 2013. Took that live onto Kickstarter in June of 2013, raised $45,000, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow, that's really awesome. It's funny because I was just watching that video that I think you just mentioned, and it's funny because I'm getting to that age where I'm starting to get nostalgic about things. I have a son, and I'm kind of introducing him to Star Wars and Ninja Turtles, but it's like these newer bastardized versions that I didn't grow up with. So
Yeah.
seeing the Back in Time, and it actually, it doesn't look like it's been tainted with. It looks like what I remember, and I think that's really cool, and it probably resonate with more people, I think, in that sense. What do you think?
Jay, you can take this one because you have 3 kids, and I know you let your oldest son watch it for the first time kind of 6 to 9 months ago, so you have some really good perspective on this.
Yeah, my oldest son is 9 now. I let him watch Back to the Future when he was 7, and that was sort of after we had started this process already, so it was definitely, the wheels were already turning at that point. And I think Back to the Future, it is kind of sort of that ultimate family movie, and Bob Gale and I, Bob Gale, of course, the writer of Back to the Future, we talked about this. It's so generational, where you have a father and a son, George and Marty, and Marty just wants to get to know his dad and go back to high school, and it's a really cool story, and I think people can relate to it. And a lot of the stuff that Louis was talking in terms of our human interest pieces, absolutely related around family, whether it's a father-son, like the Shays, who are that family in Massachusetts that we shot with, or the Hollers, who have the most incredible marriage that you could possibly imagine. Imagine for anyone who's been in a DeLorean or seen the inside of a DeLorean, it is tiny, and this couple has driven 400 together in a very confined space. So imagine how close they are, but it is that ultimate, family piece. And I think that we try to do, like you said, as good of a job at, we didn't want to make Back to the Future 4. We didn't want to make
Right.
some documentary. We wanted it to be true and have emotion to it and really just tell a new story.
That's really cool. And now you guys, you went through a Kickstarter campaign, which is really interesting because I've interviewed a couple individuals here in Connecticut actually who kind of mentioned how this is kind of like the best time to really be getting into any sort of business because of crowdfunding and stuff like that. And really, you can find sources of income. Did you find that crowdfunding to be kind of easy for this film? Like, how did you go about really pitching that in order to get the funds you needed?
Well, that was the biggest thing for us in the beginning. We knew we would crowdfund the film, and when Jay and I were speaking about it, we knew our friends and family wouldn't give us the funding that we needed to make this film, and we wanted to get the blessing of the purveyors of this community, of this fan base, to give their blessing and give their support of us doing this doc. And in doing so, I think we ended up seeing just how vast and international this following really is, because the Shays up in Massachusetts, Stephen Clark with the Back to the Future site, Joe Walser and his team, they posted about our crowdfunding efforts. They shared it and publicized it, and the community really came together in that first campaign. And even though we raised 3 times less in that first campaign than we did the second time around, it showed us that the community wants to see something. They want that 4th piece of content. We're not going to make another trilogy, but they want a reason to talk about Back to the Future. There needs to be something there to keep keep this film kind of in the public eye, in pop culture. And so once we saw that, we kind of started production. I think crowdfunding is a great source for any entrepreneur that's coming out, whether it's a startup, nonprofit, whatever it may be. Jay and I, we knew that films and kind of TV shows or pilots, they don't do that well on crowdfunding, as well as tech ideas, food, clothing, apparel, stuff like that. So if you do go to crowdfunding and you have a business idea and it's on the tech space, I'm not going to say it's a little easier, but they tend to do much better. Everyone and anyone has an idea for a film and are throwing it up on crowdfunding sites, and it's not always as successful as, kind of ours was. And I think we got a little lucky, but I think we knew the honest truth of exactly how big this fan base was, and that speaks to how strong they are and how committed they are, that they want another piece, they want more information, they want more stories, they want to see how this, connected to everyone else around the world, and they supported our film, and we were able to make it.
Wow, that's really awesome. That's really cool. Now, both of you work together in Malka Media Group, correct? Am I saying that correctly?
Malka Media Group, yeah.
And Louis, you're the founder of that. But did you two work together in college? Did you both go to was it Rutgers?
Yep. Jay and I went to Rutgers together. Jay's a little older.
Okay.
But we went to high school together. We know each other for years. I was producing in-house at MTV Networks.
Okay.
Jay was producing out in Long Island for Expression Cinema. And then once I started Malka, Jay had all the equipment. He had the talent that we were looking for. So Jay came on board, and this was maybe 5-6 years ago while I was still at MTV, and Jay's been a part of the picture ever since.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was looking at the website, and you've got some really, really good work there. The video work is really incredible. You've got some incredible clients in a lot doing with the sports world. How do you think, how did you go about starting your own agency, the Malka Group? Like, was that a long process, or was that something that kind of happened overnight, or?
Well, I was doing it both full-time at MTV while I was starting up Malka Media Group. What I live by is, what the Vikings did when they got off their boats. They burned their boats when they came to battle, and that's because they committed to win. They committed to what they were doing. And I was having these conversations while I was MTV with a lot of people where it was, you're going to half-ass it on both ends. You're going to work here in the corporate world, and then you're going to try to be an entrepreneur. You're going to compromise both ends, and then you're going to be left with nothing. So as I went through it after the first year, I kind of realized that. And, the best part about the entertainment industry, and especially about MTV Networks is they don't pay all that much. So once Malka was able to get their first contract with ESPN, I was able to leave, do it full time, and that kind of enabled me to grow the business to where it is today. We have a team of 20 people. We have full-time animators, full-time editors, full-time cinematographers. All of our equipment's in-house, lighting, audio, cameras. We just got our first original documentary onto Netflix, October 21st, directed by Jay, of course. And so it was that's what I would say to any entrepreneur trying to get into the space is have no backup plan. It's either this or you're dead. And until I admitted that, and that's kind of the philosophy I started living by, I saw no growth. As soon as I quit my job, had no other choice but to live in a 500 square foot apartment and work out of there every single day, then I wasn't giving everything I could. I could tell myself I was, but subconsciously I wasn't there. Once I had no choice and I had to live off credit cards for 6 months, that's when I really knew we had to do something, and you really push and things really start turning around.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. I think it's funny, the whole reason I really started this podcast actually is I was taking an interactive media master's program at Quinnipiac here in Connecticut, and I had been doing some freelance design work. I'm a designer, and I was like, oh, maybe I should start my own business. And it's tough when you get caught in that weird middle ground of trying to stay employed so you can survive and get yourself out there. And I think it's totally true what you just kind of said, that you kind of have to burn the boat and go for it.
Exactly. And the younger you are, the easier it is, just because you don't have as much responsibility or pressure. I would not have been able to do this if I was married with kids. There's too many people relying on me, and then you lose the opportunity. I was a single guy, so if I needed to live on the street, I could.
Yeah, that's kind of a having the house and the kids and stuff. That's kind of a big thing to kind of a lot of pressure there. So.
But if you're a designer, we're looking for designers. Call us.
All right, that's awesome. Well, it's funny because the whole podcast idea was like, well, the question was, well, how will people know that I'm a designer and I'm out there and I can do work? Well, I can put up a website. I could put up the greatest website, but no one will ever see it. So it's all about pumping out content and reaching out to people that you don't know, and and why not? I could write a blog, but that could take forever and do a ton of blog writings and posts, or I could just do a quick, do podcasts. That's why I kind of gravitated towards this. I listened to a ton of radio, Stern and Joe Rogan and stuff like that, and I get connected to people like you, and the content kind of writes itself. I get to interview interesting people and let you guys tell your story. So that's sort of like my little thing here that I've been doing. But
it's awesome. It's awesome.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it ever takes off. Everyone and their brother has a podcast now. Do you guys do anything like that, podcasting with Malka, or?
We haven't done much podcasting with Malka. We're trying to get into we're getting into the original content space. Probably original videos, short form videos, news pieces. One of my production partners, Jeff, is about to get into some video content where it's going to be kind of podcast, but more 30-second news clips. I know Jay loves podcasts. He's really into them, and if he wasn't doing this, I think he'd have a sports podcast about the Cowboys. And he's got a Romo jersey behind him. The day after Romo's out for the season, Jay?
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Not out for the season. He's just out for an extended period of time.
He broke his collarbone. He's basically dead for a quarterback.
He's broken it before. He only missed 10 weeks.
Oh, okay.
I love the jersey. I gotta say, I'm a Dallas fan. I grew up in the late '80s and 90s, and that was America's team. So I gotta.
It was good to be a Dallas fan. I mean, echoing what Lewis just said, and it's ironic you bring up the sports podcast. I did have a sports podcast for about a week. I mean, just listening to you guys talk, this is this is absolutely the story of my 20s. I knew that I wanted to be in sort of entertainment and creation, and in high school I was an actor, so I kind of wanted to be on that side of the camera, and I wanted to go to school for musical theater, so that never panned out. But once I graduated college, I knew that and I guess we're going back about 10 years at this point, I knew I wanted to do something to entertain. I mean, I've always loved that. You know, I played in a band in college, and if you haven't done it, it's extremely hard to describe, but just the emotion that you get when you're standing on stage and
Sure.
you know, singing and people are cheering for you. There's literally nothing else can compare to it. I'm sure it's no different if you're an NFL player like Tony Romo and you throw a touchdown and the crowd's going berserk. I'm sure it's kind of the exact same thing. And so I knew I wanted to be there. I just didn't know what it was. So I had a very understanding father who brought me into his business, which he's in manufacturing and had absolutely nothing to do with entertainment. But he kind of let me sit there and figure it out a little bit. So while I was working for him, I was always doing other things on the side, and I did have an idea for it was called New York Sports in 2. It's supposed to be a daily New York sports podcast in 2 minutes. So if you don't really have time to kind of know what's going on, it's better than your 20 for 20 update or whatever you listen to. So that's the idea, but it would have been highly more involved in the time that I had to do it. But I did everything, man. I had the logo going. I recorded 2 episodes. I remember it was right around like the Kentucky Derby or something. But so yeah, I mean, I totally just relate to where you guys are at, and it takes time. I mean, that's sort of, you can't get discouraged. I mean, it's something that you always read about. I mean, I'm sure there's like internet memes that just say don't get discouraged, but that's the reality. You have to keep plugging away until you find something that works. I'm sure as time goes on, you know, people will look at back in time and say, oh, that was his first project, you know? I mean, no, Back in Time wasn't my first project. It was my 1000th project. It was just my first project that people are going to know about. And, I mean, you see that all the time. You know, debut movie, like Baloney. That guy was probably in 1,700 student films before he broke out or whatever it is. So that's just, you know, I think we all kind of come from the same place with that.
Yeah, definitely. I was checking out your website right after Lewis said you were going to be on. I did a crash research session, and one of the quotes on your website I resonated was like, honing your craft and doing what you love just makes sense. And I think that's really important too. A lot of what I do, you know, I spent a lot of time here in Connecticut as a designer, working for like insurance companies and kind of hospitals. So it's like, you know, financial management and healthcare. It's not the sexiest stuff you can do. So I kind of left it up to myself to go after and do more interesting things because I came to the realization that no one's going to find me and give me the work that I want to do. It's up to me to go and create the work myself and do the experimentation and hone my craft. So I kind of resonated with that quote of yours on your site. So that's kind of cool.
Thanks. Yeah, and Lewis, you know, I don't know. Lewis just got married. Congrats to him.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't know if you relate the same way, but it's like I have a hard time explaining to my wife that what I do is work. My wife's a dentist, and career, but you're drilling in people's mouths all day. So I have a hard time explaining to my wife that traveling to Vegas and LA and Hawaii and Australia, I mean, these are places that Malka has taken us in the last like 2 years alone. It's a hard sell to explain to somebody that that's work. And,
right.
You know, the old expression is, you know, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And it's really true. And, I mean, Lewis and I can both relate to working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, literally. I am never off. If I'm awake and an email comes in, I answer it. There's no job, there's no clock, I don't have to answer to anybody either, which is nice, but I mean that's what it is. You're on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then trying to juggle a million other things with that. So if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you'll end up jumping off a bridge at some point with that kind of like that.
But that's the sacrifice that we make as entrepreneurs, as filmmakers. You know, as podcast host, Steven, you can relate to this too. It's we want to do what we love, and we want to entertain, and we want to produce, and we want to do all these things. If the only difference between what we do and what the next guy does is the amount of work and time we put into it.
Sure.
And that's the trade-off. Is 24/7, 365 days a year, and that gives us the permission and the privilege to not work a day in our life because we actually love what we do and it's not work. If we don't want the privilege of doing what we love, then we can work 5 days a week, but it's not going to be where we want to be.
Right.
And I can't see I can't say that across the board. There's plenty of people who give up everything to make their dreams come true, and they don't get there. But what is actually getting there mean? Is Jay successful because he sold his first film? Probably not. He's got to sell 10 more on a bigger scale. But the point is that he's doing what he wants to do, and trying, and that's all that matters. So all we're doing every day is just trying.
Definitely. It's funny. I think I saw a meme once, and it was like, entrepreneurs are the only people that are willing to work 80 hours to avoid working 40 hours, or something like that. That was a pretty good meme. Yeah. So let's talk about. I guess we could talk about Back in Time again some more. Jason, you're the director. Louis, you were the executive producer. What exactly, I guess, like, what were your job roles? Like, how did you guys make that happen? To me, like, creating a film with Michael J. Fox or a documentary with Christopher Lloyd seems like completely like out of my grasp as a human being. So like, how was that experience? How did you guys make that happen? Describe a little bit of that.
It's a lot of hurry up and wait, especially for the Michael J. Fox. Jay kind of was the point to deliver the vision of this documentary. He made the list of principles. He did the research. He found out where the car was ranked among the biggest film cars of all time. He knew who the purveyors of this community were. He knows every single film in and out, and he had a very clear vision. My responsibility and kind of my contribution to what we wanted to do was to get the people on Jay's list to sit down with us, to get the permission to get the budgets, and now that we finished the film, the Comic-Cons, all the panel discussions that we're doing, basically whatever Jay needed to make this work, we tried to do. The Michael J. Fox and Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg, who's in our film as well, we can't take all the credit for getting them. We could take some. But our co-producer, Adam F. Goldberg, who is the creator and writer of The Goldbergs, if you're familiar with that TV show, he got onto our project rather early. We started this 2 years ago. Within the first 3 months, Adam was on board, and he helped with getting a lot of that talent. Getting Christopher Lloyd and Bob Gale as well. Bob Gale was a huge help. He's the creator, he's the writer and producer of the Back to the Future trilogy. He gave us his blessing way up front in production, and so once he got involved, we were able to get Claudia Wells, Don Full of Love, Mayor Goldie Wilson. That's Don. Claudia Wells is Marty's first girlfriend in the first film, and kind of get a lot of the supporting cast. And then once we had all of them, it was Michael and Christopher and Bob Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg were the last to sit down with us. But I think as this grew and as we got closer to the 30th anniversary, they kind of were, they agreed to do it, just knowing the magnitude of what this 30-year celebration is going to mean. So we owe to them for giving us their time. They didn't need to do this. They didn't get paid. They sat down because of their love and support and commitment to a film that they made 30 years ago. And so that's kind of how we got them involved. And then, talking about our roles, Jay, if you can explain it any better than I can, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of nailed it. It was my dream, so I did my best to kind of carry that out from every aspect. But for those who are listening, when you get your hands on this film, start at the end. Start at the credits. There are literally names in the special thanks of our credits that I don't even know who they are. Not because we pulled names out of a phone book to make our movie look. It's because the sheer number of people that made this happen is insane. Because when you think about it, Louis, myself, and our producer, Lee Leshin, we're the faces of this thing. Every time we do a Comic-Con panel or an interview you see, and look, this really did start in a garage in Massachusetts with me and Louis, and the guys on our crew, Greg Lassick, who helped us film, and a friend of mine, Jordan, who PA'd for us. I mean, this started as 4 people documentary. But what it grew into, I mean, we have a legal team. We don't have a lawyer. We literally have a legal team.
Wow.
Multiple and their assistants, and we use two different PR teams on this. Of course, Gravitas Ventures, our film in North America, and they have an amazing PR team. Last week we were actually a trending topic on Facebook.
That's awesome.
I mean, how the hell does that happen? And prior to that, we had another PR team actually up in Connecticut. I guess right by you, Lewis, right?
Yeah. Martin B. PR.
So, it really does take a village to do something like this. And where Lewis came in on this project was, all those other things, the things that I couldn't do. It got to a point where I just had to focus on the creative and the editing. Went into post-production February this year, and we didn't lock the film until about 2 weeks ago. So
wow.
For that period of time, I had to be focused on what this film was going to look like and how it was going to be edited and what the graphics were going to be and all. And as we've gotten closer to the release date, it's only gotten busier and busier and busier. More interviews, more PR, more. I need a poster for this screening,
Right.
And we also have somebody here who works in my office who handles a lot of that stuff as well. I mean, we had to hire literally a full-time assistant to deal with the release of this film. Her name is Matt, 10 feet away. So it really is. It's like it's a group effort. As the executive producer on this project, sort of Lewis was the mayor of the village.
Gotcha. Now, is the film going to be released in cinemas, or is it released online? Where's the film going to be released?
So we have a really cool release plan. Again, we can't necessarily take the credit for. We'll take the credit for some of it. But Gravitas came to us when they approached us to distribute, and they said, "Listen, we have an unorthodox release schedule that we'd like to do with you guys. We want to release across all channels on the same day because it is October 21st, 2015. It's the day that Marty Back to the Future Part 2. There's going to be a lot of news and hoopla and whatever around that date. So we were everywhere on that day, which is not typically how release. So we we mulled it over and kind of agreed with them. We thought it was a pretty cool idea. So on October 21st, 2015, you'll be able to see our film on Netflix. You will be able to buy it on Amazon or iTunes. You can actually get it on Amazon and iTunes now. You could pre-order it, and it'll be released on that day. The other major thing that we're doing is a theatrical release through Gather. Gather is, the way I describe it, it's sort of a social media of movie screenings where you can request a screening in your city, and Gather will go ahead and set up everything. They'll rent the theater for you. They'll set the screening time. And then it's up to people to decide they want to come to that screening. When you break a certain threshold of people, that screening happens. So that'll probably go on for, I would say, a year after our release, and it can go anywhere anywhere people want to see it. So that will happen shortly after sort of the biggest announcement that we're getting ready to fully blow out this week, which is Back in Time is going on tour. As you can see,
cool.
Lewis is excited there. We are going to get on a tour bus, which was occupied right before us by the band POD.
Cool.
And we're going to start up.
You better clean that bus.
Yeah, right? I think that was part of the fee. So we're gonna start up in Oakland, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we're gonna hit 15 stops in 13 cities across a 22-day span, and make a U across the United States. We're gonna start in Oakland, head to LA, Vegas, Denver, Salt Lake City, 2 different spots in Texas, Tennessee, and then come up the East Coast. I skipped the
shows in New York.
Yeah, and finish up in Boston. So right across the United States, and it's not just going to be a screening. We're taking out the flux capacitors. They're a Back to the Future themed 80s tribute band. You could read more about them on our website.
Do you know about them, Steve?
No, actually, no. I know,
Okay.
but it sounds cool.
Yeah, they dress up like Back to the Future characters. So their leader dresses up like Marty, and their keyboardist is George, and their player is Biff, and their drummer is now, I believe, Jennifer, and their guitarist is Doc Brown, and they play all the Back to the Future stuff, Power of Love and Back in Time and Earth Angel and all that stuff, and then and Johnny Be Good, of course. But they have a library of like 200 80s songs that they do. They've blown up in LA. They're playing kind of every Kamikaze, which is Stan Lee's Comic-Con, and this is going to be the first time we're taking them on the road so America can experience what the LA area already knows. So they will screen our film, and then they'll play an hour set. We're bringing out cast members from the original Back to the Future. So Claudia Wells, who plays Jennifer, and Don Fullilove, they've signed on already. We have a couple more that we're speaking to for specific venues based on kind of where they live and stuff like that.
There's going to be a time machine?
Yeah, DeLorean time machine in tow. So we'll be trailering a DeLorean time machine all across the country. People will get to see it. People get to see it in person. And a portion of each ticket we're going to donate to the Michael J. Fox Foundation. So hope to raise a lot of money for them at the same time. It's going to be a pretty epic experience. They're going to be door prizes. Diamond Select Toys already signed on as a sponsor, and from what I understand, about an hour ago we just received. So there's a very happy flux capacitor sitting in LA who has a bunch of Back to the Future toys on his floor right now, and I mean it's going to be a pretty amazing event. We not find another tour where a band has gone out on the road to promote a movie. We don't think that's the history of cinema, so pretty cool to kind of be the first at that and just bring Back to the Future into everyone's venues. The average theater size is close to 1,400 seats, so these are pretty big venues. Give a lot of people the opportunity to come out and meet us and meet Back to the Future people and see the film. It's going to be pretty awesome heading into Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Now, was Gravitas part of that the tour, or is that something that you guys at Malta came up with? How did all of it?
Yeah, Gravitas is not part of the tour. Gravitas is simply our distribution partner for the film. The tour came through Jay and myself. Just talking about how can we extend this reach, what more can we do. I think Jay is so in love with the trilogy that now that the film is over, he's going to spend the next 2-3 years figuring out what other creative ways he can get it out there and still work on a project that integrates it somehow. So we have a tour with the film. I think Jay's going to try to go to the moon with the film, screen it up there for nobody.
Might as well.
Jay's going to try an international tour next year. But it was something
don't let you on a bus. I'll get you on a bus and we'll go back to Germany. I mean, whatever.
Yeah. No, this is something that Jay's definitely was thinking of doing. He had to, convince me a little bit, but I think it'll be fun. It's a great family experience, great family event, so it'll be a good time. We've done the Comic-Con circuit. We had panels in San Diego, New York, London, Chicago, C2E2, WonderCon, and seeing how many people come out for a panel to hear us speak. And they don't give a shit about what we have to say. They care about what we have to say about the film and us making it. So seeing how we can fill up a room there of 500 people just to watch exclusive clips, it's exciting to see what we can do by showing the whole doc, having talent from the film there. I truly believe that it's going to be an experience that you can't have anywhere else if you're a fan of Back to the Future.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's really cool that how holistically you guys were able to really put this all together, not only with the film and then like the tour. I didn't even know that was happening. That's really cool. I mean, just to pull all of that off. I mean, I'm always thinking like, even when I do a small design, how else I can make it, work everywhere and elsewhere and think holistically and to take what you're doing basically on a bigger, scale is really cool. I'd love to check that out. That'd be
absolutely, yeah. Come out to a New York event. I'm sure New York City's probably the
you're right in between here and Boston. So.
Oh yeah, I could do either.
You're right in the middle. But you're totally right. It's how do you repurpose any sort of creative content or creative piece into other forms? So whether you're designing logos that you can put on the front of your business card or on a billboard, you still want to be able to repurpose it, and being able to repurpose the film and bring it to other people and kind of interact with the fans. To be honest, the fan interaction that we've been getting with fans of the film, of the doc, the people that we've been interviewing in the film, that's been the most beautiful part of this process for me. Seeing the film come together at the end, it's awesome and it's great and I love it, but the true experience was the real interaction I had with the people, and that's what made me fall in love with the filmmaking process all over again, is working with them, getting to know them, getting close with these people from all over the country, all over the world. That comes first. The finishing the film and seeing a film come to fruition, that should be first, and that means truly a lot to me. But building the relationship with the fans and the Shays, for example, they're lifelong friends of mine now. I will always be in contact with them for any reason, and so that truly means a lot.
Yeah, really, I think one of the great. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say it. Like one of the great stories. Lewis spoke about London Comic-Con. I mean, the fact that we were, invited out to London to do a panel on Back to the Future is ridiculous in and of itself. But the backstory is they were having this massive Back to the Future reunion. I believe it was the biggest one since the film. Michael was there, Chris was there, Leah was there, Claudia Wells, Don Full of 15 cast members from Back to the Future, all the way down to Lorraine's mother. They had that actress, I believe was her name, and they gave us the opening slot to that reunion. So we were on their super stage in London, in front of an audience of over 2,000 people, just talking about making the film, and all of these cast members were available all weekend for citizens of London to meet and to get their autographs and stuff like that. And people had some really cool stuff. One guy had this yellow Pelican case, Doc's plutonium case, and he had gotten it signed by the entire cast of Back to brought it to us to sign. Like, they wanted our signatures on there right alongside, Chris and Michael and Leah, and I mean, an amazing honor to kind of. And Brett Culp, very good friend of mine, filmmaker who did a documentary about a year ago, Legends of the Night. He and I have just had so many opportunities to kind of bang heads just about his process, and it's interesting. Our film has sort of taken on just a different life than his, but at the same time, his came out a year ago. So he's kind of leaning on me a little bit, where he's doing his second film right now, and I'm leaning on him in terms of like what was the release like and all those things. And it's a group that he and I have. But you asked about Gravitas. Gravitas specializes in the on-demand and cable market. That's their thing. And they came to us and said they wanted to do a North American release, and they had some theatrical ideas. Now, when we got on our first phone call with them, they said, oh, well, we wanted to do a premiere in LA and New York. And we're like, okay, that's great. I mean, sure, we should do that. But that was the big theatrical idea. And as soon as we call, and I about his theatrical release, and he said to me it was one of the most valuable experiences of his whole film, Lewis and I just got on the phone. We gotta do this bigger theatrically, or else, because that feedback. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny because, interestingly, I met Henry Rollins last week. He came to Hartford, and he was talking about he's done like a shitload of shitty movies, and to him it's just work. But he ran into some guy out in California at a coffee shop that saw him and like broke down in tears because he was in the movie like Jack Frost, and him and his late wife, we used to watch that every Christmas. This dude, like this big guy's like 6'4", 400 pounds, was like weeping, and he's like. So always remember, like, your work isn't just for you. That other people, it might mean more to other people than it does to you. The work that you create. So I thought that was a really interesting point that he made.
Absolutely, you never know who your film can resonate with. It's not always the 6-year-old kid or the 8-year-old kid. It could be that 28-year-old, 200-pound, diesel chiseled guy that just sees Cinderella and cries. Jay cries when he watches Cinderella. Let's just be honest here.
I mean, it's kind of all Disney movies. I don't single out Cinderella. I mean, the Bambi moment was childhood scarring type of thing, and Aladdin. Whatever.
That's funny. But so what do you guys have planned after this after Back in Time releases and you come back from the moon? Do you have any other projects in the works, or is it all Back in Time right now?
Once you come back from the moon, you know, it's
where to next at that point?
exactly.
We're talking internally. You know, Jay has a couple of really good ideas. You know, our team here at Malka also has some pretty solid ideas. The thing is that how do you follow up to this? You know, even though this isn't the biggest that we could have done, it's still big enough that a lot of the ideas we're throwing out there, we know can't be bigger than what Back in Time is or is going to be. So, you know, Jay and I are huge sports fans. We love to do something about sports or, you know, a specific sport, but, you know, what hasn't been done? You know, what's the story that you want to hear kind of thing? It's
right.
We're thinking about it. We're throwing them up and trying to see which one has legs. I watch a documentary probably at least once every other day, and a lot of it is sports documentaries. I love all the sports content that's out there these days, especially now with, you know, Hard Knocks has been out for years, but Showtime getting into it with the Notre Dame TV show, and I think that opens the door for a lot of universities to start doing Hard Knocks type content. But we want to tell a different type of story. You know, like we said with this one, there's a cultural relevance component. There's a lot of human interest pieces. So if we're going to do a sports documentary, I want to do something that changes the way you view a sport or a person, or just has a lot of human interest connections there. And it's hard to find that these days with just so much content out there. So, you know, I think we're going to be very picky about our next project, and it's going to take us some time to really land it. You know, we think we know what it's going to be. We have it narrowed down to 2 or 3. I wouldn't be surprised if it's idea number 24 that we come up with a month from now that ends up being what we do. You know, it's not necessarily, I don't think we have it figured out yet. I think we want to have it figured out, so we're trying to lean towards a couple of projects, but I think we could have it, you know, the idea might not have come to us yet. And we're very collaborative. We spit ideas off each other all the time. So I don't know what's next to answer your question shortly, but it's going to be big, trust me.
Now, I actually, the sports documentaries, what's the one that ESPN does? Is it this?
The 30 for 30.
30. Is that, yeah, is that the one they did the Randy Moss, like?
Yep.
Yeah, those are awesome. I really like those documentaries where they kind of get into the, you know, an athlete or a sports team or something like that. I get sucked into those. You know, I used to be really big into sports before I had kids. Now I don't watch any sports at all, but I try to catch you know, those documentaries as much as possible. Those are really great. So I'd be interested in anything that you guys put together. It looks cool.
What's the shirt that you wear?
I mean, the
sports team?
Oh, this is actually one of my Hartford Hammer. It's I'm heavily involved in CrossFit right now. That's my physical release. You know, I don't know about you guys, but having to be creative all the time definitely burns you out. So I always try to get my fitness in. And actually, they're one of my sponsors, CrossFit Hartford.
Oh,
and there's
nice.
There's a semi-pro league of CrossFitters. It's like a grid league, and it's the Hartford Hammer. And I did the shirt, and I
did the design.
Yeah, I did that, and you know, they're hooking me up with the podcast, so I kind of.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't know if I could talk about what my physical release is. But I don't know if we could do that. So, Jay, what's your physical release?
I play hockey and baseball. I can talk about that. Actually, just won a third baseball championship in a row yesterday. We three-peated for the first time in the league's history.
There you go.
That was
nice.
Jay plays in the women's above 60 league, back-to-back championships.
Yeah, very
nice.
Dynasty.
Very competitive, I got to tell you.
So
no, that's I mean, sports. You know, it's the great. I don't even know what the word is. It brings people there. It's an international language. There are sports everywhere, and I have a master's degree in sports business. So, ironically, I was kind of on the path of doing a sports documentary. I went back to school in my late 20s to. At this point, I'd already been doing videos that were sports related, and I was kind of leaning that direction. And I went to NYU to get my master's so that I could kind of branch out in terms of a network and meet some more people. And I've had the opportunity the last 3 years. One of our big clients is NYU Sports and Society program, and I work right alongside Ted Shaker, who lives up there in Connecticut, right by you, and he was the executive producer at CBS Sports throughout the 90s. The guy has 14 Emmys on his mantle, real Emmys, the primetime ones, and he signed the first billion-dollar deal with baseball, and he produced 4 Super Bowls, and just having as a mentor and working with them, and with Maka, we have the opportunity to create content for those people. Sat with athletes, I mean, the people who have been in front of our lenses in the last couple of years, and Back in Time was sort of a detour, concurrently to that, but sort of away from it, and we'll see when we circle back around how we could tie these things in. But like Louis said, so I think a lot of the great ideas that we've had just internally over the last couple months, if Back in Time didn't exist, we would do any of them, because any of them would be our biggest thing to date. But it's hard when you have something that has global success. You have to be super picky with what you follow that with, because if you're going to do a niche documentary afterwards, how do you get back on the big stage? I mean, we have a lot of people's ears right now, so we want to make sure that we
well, it sets the bar so high. If you see me, I'm going like this. It's because like Back in Time set the bar. Not to interrupt you, Jay. Sorry, but Back in Time set the bar high for us, and now it's, well, we're not going to deliver something that's subpar from this or just as good. It has to be better because we have the attention of the space. As soon as Jay's name pops up on that Netflix and it says talent, Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis, Michael J. Fox, and director J. Aron next to it, Jay's not going to be wearing that Marty McFly hat anymore. So it'll be interesting.
Still wear the hat. I might still wear the hat.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say I don't think sports people can relate to sports, but I think Back to the Future, I think enough people can relate to that as well. I don't think a day's gone by where I haven't made a Back to the Future reference in some way. So I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, there you go.
Without even knowing it.
It is literally part of culture. It's part of the vernacular. And if I'll lead you to sort of the closing question, which is, what's the thing that we probably took away from this? I think it's how big Back to the Future was. I saw it on a micro level the day that I was filming in Long Island, just people taking pictures of a stock DeLorean. But everything that we've learned through this process, when we launched our second Kickstarter, within a week of that, I had done podcasts just like this, like radio interviews, in South Korea, Argentina, Brazil,
wow.
London. We have literally a request day from distributors in Germany, Spain, and people who want to distribute this film. How the story about some high school kid from California is 30 years later all over the world is absolutely the biggest takeaway from this documentary. And I don't even know if watching our documentary, because it's, for us to convey that, we would have had to spend millions of dollars and travel the world, which we couldn't do. Fortunately, we did make it to London in the production, but Back to the Future is so big.
And they don't make movies like that anymore. I keep trying to think to myself, what's that movie from my generation that we saw within the last 5-10 years maybe, that in 30 years there's going to be a huge ceremony for it, a big 30th anniversary week-long event in LA, or there's just so much going on around the 30th anniversary release. I can't think of any film in the past 5-10 years that could have that following. And Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, is there? What movie even comes close? Steve, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. And I think next year is the 20th anniversary of Harry Potter.
20?
And what could it be? Yeah.
Already?
I know.
What?
Wow.
I think it's the book.
The book came out when I was 10? No.
I don't know. Look it up. We should Google it. We should Google it real quick. That's what I've heard.
When I was 10, it was Goosebumps, R.L. Stine.
But I don't think any other movies that are big, like I'm even thinking like Lord of the Rings or something.
Yep.
But like, I think any kids to older. My dad would watch Back to the Future, my kids would watch Back to the Future. The range of the audience is just so huge, and I'm trying to think what other movie has that sort of audience, and I can't think of one.
The one I was
Yeah,
thinking would come closest is, like you said, Steve, Lord of the Rings. But it's not like that type of film. You can't watch Lord of the Rings whenever you're flipping through the channels and it's on. You just stop it. It's a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, throw the damn ring in the fucking volcano.
Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not.
By the way, guys, just to make you feel, the 20th anniversary is in 2 years, so I was off by a year. But first book, 1997.
Huh.
Wow, that's surprising.
Yeah. So and I mean, this isn't going to happen for the 20th anniversary of Harry Potter. I mean, it's just not. People don't care anymore. You know, with the internet, with social media. I mean, it's movies used to be like sacred time. Now there's so much content out there that the struggle is just to make content. So there's so much bad content. Back to the Future took 6 years to write, practically.
Wow.
It was perfect movie.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely excited to see it. Definitely congratulations creating it. Definitely enjoy your work. Definitely thank you for being on the show. I know you guys probably got to get going. Do you have another thing you have to do for this today, or?
At 4 o'clock.
See, we have a call.
Okay. All right. Well, if you have to, where can everyone check it out? Netflix.
Netflix on October 21st. If you want to watch the trailer, you can go to backintimefilm.com. If you want to pre-buy the Blu-ray DVD, you can do it on Amazon. That's everything, right, Jay?
Yeah, backintimefilm.com. It's the central hub for everything. You can pre-order it digitally or in print right now on either iTunes or Amazon. And October 21st, circle that date on your calendar.
All right, great. Thank you so much, guys. I know you guys are super busy, and I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for being on the show. You'd probably do more good for me than I will for you, but
No,
thanks.
thank you for having us. This was fun. I appreciate it. Thanks, Steve.
A lot of fun.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Take care.